we have it, our next speaker for this session. Hello, Miss Vivian. Hello, Miss Giselle. Good morning to you. Hello, Miss Giselle. Good morning. Can you connect your audio? All right. Good morning again to everyone who's tuning in with us today. So next topic for this day is the business continuity planning and enterprise. So it's not just the household members, but businesses and organizations are also forced to adapt to this situation in order to survive. So if you don't have a business continuity plan in place to help you respond to the global pandemic, then you're putting your business at risk. So to help you prepare and face this global pandemic, Ms. Giselle de Guzman will guide you through this uh, situation through business continuity planning and enterprise resilience. So again, let's check Ms. Giselle if she can hear us fine. Ms. Giselle, are you there? Can you put your microphone on and accept the...
Yeah,
All
just
right, I think we're hearing you.
yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
And accept the... All right, great. So now let us introduce to you our next speaker. Okay, Ms. Giselle de Guzman is a strategic HR leader with proven track record in managing dynamic teams across industries, BPO shared services, manufacturing, travel and event management, government services, and she is also a highly motivated and self-initiated leader who creatively employed various approaches and developed programs which effectively impacted organization. Either established or startups, huge or small, multinational or local, she is also an engaging leader who meticulously spots talents and develops them to their rich potential. Ms. Giselle demonstrates an open leadership style which cultivates employee engagement, retention, integration, and diversity. So this speaker has also a strong multidiscipline administrative management such as general services, policies, facilities, compliance, systems, management, finance, legal, and corporate governance. Without further ado, Ms. Giselle de Guzman.
Thank you, Jester, and a pleasant day to all. I do hope wherever you are, you're all safe and doing well. So, yes, I'm Giselle de Guzman. I am the Chief HR Officer of Direct Sourcing Solutions. We are an IT BPO solutions company located in the Clark Freeport Zone in the province of Pampanga. So I have been tasked to, hold on, let me just share my screen. Okay, so I have been tasked to talk about business continuity planning and enterprise resilience. I do feel honored and proud, and at the same time humbled that I was given this opportunity to talk about our own experience when it comes to implementing business continuity planning or BCP. I hope after this session you will learn a thing or two about business continuity planning and how, and hopefully it can help you in your organizations to navigate what many would call as the complexities of BCP. My understanding is that some or many of the participants of this webinar have not yet implemented BCP in their respective organizations. So I thought it would be for the best interest of everyone if we could bring down the discussion to a more general, to more basic and simplistic approach so that everyone will have a better understanding and appreciation about BCP and what it entails. So first things first, what is the definition of BCP? Here it is defined as the process involved in creating a system of prevention and recovery from potential threats to a company. So it's quite straightforward, but then if you want to simplify it further, then we can just make use of the actual words used in the title, which means business continuity planning is about the planning being undertaken by companies so they can continue their business operations even in the event of a disaster or business disruption. So that is, for me, a clear definition of BCP, and it sounds simpler and easier to undertake. Of course, I know that you have questions like what's the difference between disaster recovery, emergency management plan, contingency planning, continuity management, risk management. All of these are part of business continuity planning. They are what we would call as subsets or components of the bigger picture, which is business continuity planning. But of course, a plan would not move. You need to implement the plan. You need a system to create it. You need resources. You need people. You need the involvement of key parties. Of course, you have to define the scope, the structure, how do you communicate the plan, and of course, you need to have well thought of procedures. We will discuss this further later on, but what I would like to emphasize right now is this. Top management's commitment is most critical because without the management giving their support and directive, any good plan will not succeed. It will just fail. So it's like it will be a useless effort on your part if you just start the BCP without any support coming from your top management. And what do we cover? What do we cover?
All right, we'll try to fix the screen first. I think the main screen is showing. All right, that's great.
Okay, so were you able to see the previous slides?
Yeah, we were showing, we will, the main screen is actually appearing, but now it's okay.
Okay, all right. So I don't need to go back to any of the previous slides, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what is included when you do BCP? Of course, especially in the Philippines, this is a disaster-prone country. We have a lot of natural disasters in the form of typhoon. We have earthquakes. We have flooding. We also have volcanic eruption, and then of course there are accidents like fire, the cyber attack. So what we have to do is to classify, okay, what's the highest risk in your respective organizations. Like if you are in a dilapidated building, so I think fire will be the most will be your top risk. So we have natural disasters, that's earthquake, typhoon, hurricane, flooding, volcanic eruption, and then for accidents, we have fire, chemical spill, and then man-made disasters can be cyber attack, explosions, arson, active shooting, terrorist attack, forest fire, and of course, now we are experiencing health crisis or a pandemic, which right now we cannot classify if it's a natural disaster or an accident or a man-made disaster because we still don't know the origin of the COVID-19. Um, Specifically, we have to come up with specifically we have to come up uh, with BCPs for each disaster. Like the BCP for earthquake will be different from a typhoon. It will be different for a cyber attack. So it has to be very specific planning for each possible occurrence. But nowadays, it seems that everyone's talking about BCP. Like we hear it every time. So it has become a byword. And I think this was brought about by the need for us to act fast because of the uncertainties brought about by the pandemic. All of a sudden, we were asked by the government uh, to lock down. That at least for Central Luzon, that was on March 16. We didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but then we just have to follow government instructions. So what we see right now is that a lot of businesses have been affected because of the lack of prior planning and preparation. And it's not looking good because the dim prospects is now hitting the global economy. And business leaders have to look inwards to look for solutions because if they need to survive, then they have to act at this point. Not not next year, but at this time. So again, BCP is now a business necessity. It can no longer be put back in the back burner. And I know these are the usual excuses that's been given to us by our managers, by our bosses, wherein maybe a year ago we wanted to come up with a BCP, but we were met with these excuses like it's expensive, we can't afford it, it's the least in our priority, we are okay for now, let's do this in the future when we are bigger, not needed, it will not happen, we have no one who can do it, and it's not even a business, it's not even a client requirement. And then the unexpected happened. So that's when many were caught flat-footed, that's when many were caught unprepared. But just the same, we were we were expected to do something out of this. Now, I thought for a clearer discussion, we will need a springboard. We will need a case study so we can set our expectations using one case study. Okay, so this is the World Trade Center, Towers 1 and 2. This picture, of course, was taken during the heyday of New York City, wherein the two towers were still majestically standing tall. The towers stood at 110 stories during their completion in 1973. They have become one of the iconic symbols of New York City. And as you know, they were located in the World Trade Center complex in the financial district in Lower Manhattan, and that's located in the heart of New York City. It housed a lot of tenants like financial institutions, banks, headquarters of multinational companies, government offices, professional firms, and even the New York Board of Trade. So it was definitely the most prestigious business address at that time. It's like here in the Philippines, when we were younger, we said to ourselves, oh, okay, I'd like to work in Makati. Or later on, it was Ortigas. And then now it's BGC. So it's something like that. No? This is where professionals would want to work. So this would just show the beauty of these buildings. Now, I would like you to imagine for a moment that you are working in your current companies right now, and one morning you woke up late. Oh, sorry, you're working in your current companies right now, which have a posh office in one of the uh, towers, meaning you are located maybe at the 80th floor of Tower 2. But one day you woke up late, and then on your way to the office, this is what you saw. This is the vision that many people will never forget. No, I do remember watching this live on CNN way back. That was on September 11 of 2001. This, of course, is the very tragic tragic event wherein terrorists hijacked 4 planes, and 2 planes were intentionally crashed into the 2 towers. There were 2 other sites which were affected. That's the Pentagon building in Washington and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So these were the other photos captured wherein we saw that the buildings were on fire and people were trying to get out of the buildings whatever way they can. So yes, so people were trying to get out fast or get away from the site. Just to consider too, it was not only the 2 towers that were damaged or affected. You have to take into consideration the 1 kilometer radius from the World Trade Center. So a lot of buildings were also affected during that time and damaged. So based on the records, there were almost 3,000 people who were killed at the site because the crash happened just a little past 8 o'clock in the morning. So many people were just starting their day. Maybe some were drinking coffee, and some were just starting their work. And yeah, so many were physically disabled. Many suffered grave illness, and until now, many are reported to have post traumatic post traumatic syndrome. Okay, so going back to our imagination, do you think with this aftermath, no, we see that the buildings, the 2 towers, were reduced to this rubble. So this was eventually called the ground zero. Do you think that if your company, your present company, is occupying an office in these 2 buildings or in the surrounding buildings, do you think you will be able to resume your business operations in a week or maybe a month? I think that's the question that we will have to ask ourselves as we start planning for BCP. This, of course, is one of the most tragic incidents. And in terms of planning for BCP, this will be our worst case scenario. Because unlike what we are experiencing right now with the COVID pandemic, at least our offices, our workplaces are still standing. No, we can still access our files. We can still go to our offices as needed. But this particular incident, the 9/11, has reduced everything. There was nothing that can be recovered. So this will be our springboard when we think about how do we want to go about in preparing for our BCP. I hope that's it will give us good perspective because not all tragedies, not all disasters are the same, but this one has the most impact wherein everything was almost gone. Plus, of course, the lives of your employees. So it is very severe and has a very huge impact, uh, even in the economy of the country. Like in this instance, this has impacted the U.S. economy for quite a while. So 9/11 will go down in history as one of the most costly and devastating tragedies to hit the business world. Um, you can just imagine the billions of dollars lost in terms of IT infrastructure, and there's just no way that this can be physically rebuilt and recovered. But some companies prepared ahead. No, during that time, 2001, there were already some companies providing disaster recovery services, wherein they can provide backup and redundancy setups located elsewhere. So we would really say that the 9/11 tragedy has defined the need for business continuity planning in the business world. And it also set the standards, at least the minimum standards for BCP planning, because it requires us to plan for the worst case scenario. That scenario will help us in eventually surviving the most devastating disasters. And of course, there were a lot of lessons. There were a lot of realizations from the 9/11 tragedy. And all of a sudden, business leaders were saying, okay, we need to have a BCP. And this was the time wherein those who did not go ahead with their plan uh, just had to say, yeah, I was wrong. So we go back to these excuses. It's expensive. We can't afford it. I think we can align some of our budget. uh, it's the least in our priority. It's definitely one of our top priorities. We are okay for now. Let's do this in the future when we are bigger. No, the time to do it is now. And then it's not needed, it will not happen. It will happen because even if it may not happen, other disasters will. We have no one who can do it. You can hire someone. It's not a client requirement. No, because now many clients are asking for BCP from their suppliers. So the key lesson, BCP is one of the key management systems that would define the future of a business. It is actually the roadmap of organizations to survive uncertainties. Okay, we have to go through the general process because this this is the actual process for you to develop BCP. But as I've said earlier, we want to break it down to something more general, more basic. So we will just run through these processes just so you have an idea what are the components and how to go about it. But I don't think we have time to discuss in detail all of the points. So as mentioned by Miss Vivian earlier, when you come up with a plan, you should always have a review and updating process. And it should also reflect the current needs of the organization, because if the size of your organization right now is just small and then you're moving up to mid-size, then of course uh, adjust in terms of the needs of your organization, because I think you will have more people, you will have more investment, you have higher risk, so you have to take into consideration this planning. And then also, you have to define or identify the decision points and who are responsible to make the decisions during a disaster. There are three stages to creating a BCP. Number one, which is the most important, is to conduct a risk assessment and an analysis of the impact on the business. And then develop and document the BCP, and then test, approve, and implement the BCP. So under risk assessment, that's risk evaluation and business impact analysis. And under develop and document business continuity plan, that's develop recovery strategy and document plan. And the last one, that's test, approve, and implement business continuity plan. That's test plan, approve, and implement plan. And then, of course, you have to maintain it. So this would just define further what's needed per level or stage of implementation. No? So risk evaluation, that's identify critical business functions, and then business impact analysis, identify risk and impact on business functions. And then I think this is the second one, develop and document BCP. So you have to develop recovery strategy, document the plan, and then test and implement BCP. That's the third one. That's test plan, approve and implement plan, and of course, you maintain the plan. So as I've said, we're not going to go into detail with this general process, because what I would want to highlight is the simplified approach that I think will be more practical for SMEs, like many of our participating companies which are in attendance today. And I will not also be sharing the BCP of our company, Direct Sourcing Solutions. Instead, what I will share are the practices that we have, what's the setup that we have in our company, which we believe have helped us in our transition to our current situation. So company overview, we are a technology company. So we have presence in New Zealand, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Hawaii. So these are more of sales offices. But the bulk of the work, especially for operations, is being carried out in the Philippines. This is where our back office for client delivery solutions is. Our clients are located in Asia Pacific region and of course Hawaii, and most of which are into digital business consulting and technology. We pride itself, our company prides itself as a technology-enabled company. We invest quite a lot in terms of technology because we believe that these are important in ensuring efficiency and high performance. Especially these are required and expected from us being a supplier for digital business consulting and technology companies. So we have established our own BCP way back in 2018. It was just like any other BCP. We have to cover the imminent threats, cyber attack, earthquake, fire, and typhoon. And this is what I am proud of, which I was trying to emphasize earlier, is that our BCP is top management initiated and sponsored. So our planning committee is attended by the top management team, whereby decisions are easily made because when we talk about resources, those in attendance are in the know. We we understand what's the requirement and what we are capable of providing, and from there we are able to come up with decisions quite faster. And of course we provide our clients with a copy of our BCP. By the way, our company right now is currently undergoing preparation for ISO QMS accreditation. So what are the features of our BCP? Number one, in terms of organization, the management and staff support, this is the BCP is top management driven. We have a defined structure of the responsibilities of each person, specifically those coming from top management is well defined. We have a well experienced, progressive, and technology capable management team. I think I'm the only one who is not techie. The rest of the management team members are all into technology. It's like they breathe technology. It's like they talk about servers, they talk about software applications like it's an ordinary thing. But for me, it is a struggle. But despite that, I have learned to love technology, even if I was struggling. But it I have no choice, because it is really important right now that we embrace technology. So we have process-driven way of doing things, and these are documented. And yes, our staff are tech savvy. It's like there's a new app, there's a new technology, they can just proceed with it. There's no way for them to feel afraid of transitioning to a new software application. It's just like they just embrace it. It's so easy for them. So this is one of our strengths, I would say, because at this stage wherein digital transformation is the most important, we have to educate, we have to train and retrain our people on the use of technology. But our staff are already, they are really tech savvy. Location, we are located in a prime business location. It's a high-grade building with proper security management and NOC. And of course, we have a power generator. The generator of the building would switch on after 15 seconds of power failure. So this is a very good way to support businesses such as our own. Um, our our landlord and the property management company also periodically conduct emergency evacuation drills for all tenants. And Clark, as you know, is a fenced territory. It has its own administration, it has its own security force and fire departments. So in the event of a fire incident, uh, we won't be relying only on the LGUs to respond, but CDC has its own fire department. Also, the Clark International Airport Corporation can support. IT infrastructure and support. This is where we put our money in. Uh, Maybe you will say, "Oh my goodness, it's you have redundancy set up with 4 internet service providers." Yes, we have those because we can't afford to rely only on one ISP. So we have 4. And then we have top grade network infrastructure. We have high quality server equipment. We have secured server network, firewall, cabling, and of course, we use cloud for backup storage. And another redundancy is local backup to network attached storage. And of course, our IT conducts regular backup and encryption. And we have UPS for all PCs. So it's really a lot of investment when it comes to our IT infrastructure and support. Even our cabling, it's not just we hire just anyone to do our internet cabling. There's a specific standard that we have to follow because it doesn't matter that you have 50 Mbps, but if the cabling was not correctly done, then uh, the internet capability will also go down. And we use a lot of information and management systems and tools. So we have a lot of software applications. For HR and admin, we have our HR information system. Of course, it has leave application aside from the usual repository. Uh, it also has data analytics. And then for biometric timekeeping system, on site in the office, we have finger scanning, which is connected to another software, which our timekeeper can just upload. And then now, because we are all working from home, we just do, we cannot access, of course, our finger scanning on site. So what we do is make use of a facial recognition application, which states, okay, whenever they do a selfie, even the location of the employee is reflected on that uh, selfie. And then we have company-wide communication channel. This is very important for us because we're able to keep everyone updated, especially for announcements coming from HR. Uh, and everyone is on it. So it's like we get uh, we get information right on time. We also have internet. This is where we post and upload various policies and procedures so that our employees can have direct access anytime. And we also have visitor registration system. This includes NDA. This is also for security purposes. When we have visitors inside our office, we have to make sure that they comply also with the requirements of our security policy. For recruitment, we have applicant tracking system, so we no longer use manual procedures. The applicant tracking system is very important for us because it gives full access to hiring managers on what has been done in terms of a candidate. Uh, the status of a candidate, like has it been reviewed, has this been has the candidate been phone screened, uh, did, did he pass the exams, how was the interview, what was the score of the exam, so something like that. It's all there in the system, so it's very easy for us to go back to previous applicants and just take a look if they meet the requirements of a new client. So at this time, this is very helpful for us because we don't need paper documents to look to check and look into, just to know what are the comments of the hiring managers for the candidates. And then of course we do online exams, that's for technical exams, and all of the interviews are done online. We've been using Skype way back, and of course later on Zoom. Okay, so for accounting and finance, we have cloud-based accounting system. This helps us a lot in keeping track of all the receipts and all of the financial records that we have to access anytime. So even at this time, it's so easy for them. There are no more paper documents that would be accessed to. So everything is cloud-based. Everything is a digital copy. So we have, of course, online payroll and bank transactions. So everything is done uh, through through our bank's online system. And we even have expense claim software. This is for reimbursement of those who are frequently reimbursing expenses. Our operations also have productivity management tool, which is being used for client-based employees, and and also timekeeping tool for clients, because some clients are very particular about the time spent by the staff, by the employees on a particular project. So we have this, and then we're also able to monitor, aside from the usual KPIs, we're able to monitor how they are progressing and how much time they are using for a particular project. So we also are able to come up with work order of which are sent to clients. So we have done away with any manual processing. For sales, we have customer relationship management. This is where our sales would able to monitor and also update what are the statuses uh, of the new clients, or the new, what you call that, the new prospects. We also have call management solution. This is internet based. We don't use the regular phones for long distance phone calls. Especially our sales, they call up various companies in various countries. And then for our IT, we have a ticketing system, and then cloud based storage. For health and safety, we have an established emergency evacuation practices and procedures. And we have been periodically providing health and safety bulletin since way back and even until now. So uh, for our business, it's not easy for us to gather our employees for, for for updates on health and safety, but we are able to do this electronically or online. It does save us time, and it is more convenient, especially for those who are client engaged. For communication, we are able to do timely communication with our internal staff through our company-wide communication tools, and also direct messaging, and of course we have surveys. On the other hand, for our clients, we do constant communication with them. We also give them updates through emails, and also some advisories. And of course, one thing also that has helped us in successfully implementing our BCP is our deployment and distribution channel. So we have established our transportation and logistics. We have so far tested and survived two major occurrences, uh, which I would say have tested our BCP. Number one was the major earthquake in April 22 in 2019, and of course our existing dilemma, which is the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, which started from March 16 up to the present. So for the major earthquake, it was a good thing. We were lucky because it happened on an Easter Monday. So many of our staff, it's like 50% of our staff were on holiday, and only 50% were in the office at that time. And because the earthquake happened after 5 o'clock, so some of the employees were able to get out of the building already. But yes, it was quite strong. We felt it strongly because we were in the eighth floor. It was the buildings were really swaying, and it was quite dramatic because we were in the pantry, and the three water dispensers just fell down, and there was power outage. It was really scary. I really felt it. No, that was the end, and we were able to evacuate safely, all of us, and account for everyone. And the next day, because of the minimal damage to the building, there were just some masonry cracks. Uh, Plus, there was power, there was internet. We were able to go back to the office the next day. However, we realized that the staff were quite wary. They were still afraid because there were aftershocks happening. So we sent everyone home. And of course, at that time, the elevators were not operating, were not functional. So we had to use the stairs from the ground floor to uh, the eighth floor. So it wasn't the worst case. It wasn't the worst situation. However, it was also difficult for us. So we declared 2 days without work because Wednesday there was still a major aftershock. And then we had to wait for the building administrator to give us a safety clearance coming from the building experts. That was our guarantee that it's safe for everyone to come back to the building. And during that time, we were giving constant updates to our employees. We were doing it through our communication channel. And of course, we have to address the concerns of employees. And of course, you have to allay their fears. Many were afraid to go back to the office because, they saw pictures of cracks on the wall. Uh, so of course, it wasn't easy not to appease them, but given that there was a clearance coming from experts, then that was the time when we assured everyone, okay, it's safe to go back. Also, the clients were given timely communication also. And most of them have expressed their support, their understanding that, okay, they understand that their resources have to be off work for at least 2 days. And then during that time also, some employees were able to work from home because some clients agreed that their resources will work from home instead. Okay, and now it's the COVID-19 pandemic that we are that we have to uh, work around with our BCP. We had to create a new BCP for this health crisis because it wasn't included in our original BCP. And we have started planning for it 3 weeks ahead, 3 weeks before the government imposed lockdown. And we were constantly reviewing and updating it because there were so many developments coming forward. Uh, the plan really was for everyone to work from home. That was uh, that was essential for us. There was no other plan like 50% will stay in the office. No, it's like the general plan was for everyone to work from home. And how do we transition to that plan? And of course, number one, we had to conduct inventory. What's our what's the number of available PCs or spare PCs that we have? Uh, how many pocket Wi-Fi's do we have? And also, we conducted an inventory among staff, like who are willing to use their own PCs and those who have internet connection at home, and what were their internet connection speed, like is it 10 Mbps, 20 Mbps, because we know what will be the minimum, at least if the employee is delivering software development services. And then of course we had to purchase additional PCs and pocket Wi-Fi, and then we secured in advance permit to bring out some of the machines. And then employees were asked to start filling up equipment loan forms, especially those who have indicated that they don't have a reliable PC in their homes. We also have established deployment and delivery. We have the addresses of the employees who need PCs delivered to their homes with specific directional instructions. Our driver wanted uh, the use of Google Map, and he was very specific regarding this because time was of the essence. And then of course we did timely communication to employees. That was uh, before we activated the plan. Uh, we we had a all hands meeting with all of the staff, informing them about three scenarios at least. So scenario one, what will be our action? Scenario two, and then scenario three. And then from there, that's when we were supposed to activate the BCP. And then we had to communicate, of course, so during the implementation and immediately right after. And of course, we were giving regular updates. And later on, maybe a month after, uh, when we have all been working from home, we have conducted a survey among the employees because we had to check how are they doing during this pandemic. Are they able to work properly and effectively in their homes? How do they feel about work from home? And of course, there are also concerns about uh, mental mental illness, or maybe not mental illness, but the fact that people are more anxious nowadays and feel more stressed. So we needed to check on them, how they're feeling during this time. And then of course management has regularly been communicating with clients regarding the plan before we activated it. And then of course we sought their concurrence. Specifically, it is important for us to get the approval of clients, specifically for work from home arrangement, because as we all know, data security is the major issue for work from home arrangement. And then we started also to distribute extra PCs and gadgets in at least three key locations. Oh, so some PCs and gadgets were distributed in Angeles City. Some were brought to my house in San Fernando, and some were PCs were brought to Tarlac. This is important for us because we will be able to respond better for employees who needed replacement of PCs. So, if we will recall, March 16 afternoon was the declaration of the lockdown. for the whole of Central Luzon. But morning of March 16, we have already made the decision. We have already communicated with the staff that, okay, we are activating the plan and please start preparing. Okay, of course, we were expecting that everyone will still render work until the end of operating hours or until 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, but everyone started preparing, especially those who needed to bring home some gadgets. So it was like, yeah, we planned ahead of the government because we couldn't wait for the government to tell us, okay, we're on lockdown, okay, work from home. No, we cannot wait for that. Uh, it is it is our responsibility to ensure that our clients are satisfied with our services, with the continuous delivery of our services. So we have to work in advance uh, to get this done. And what was the outcome? So March 17 morning, we were 85% operational. So that was what we call, it was successful because, 85%, while some BPO companies just received directive on March 17 to do work from home moving forward. So in our case, we have started work from home morning of March 17, and we were almost 100% operational. There were just a few staff who weren't able to get their PCs on time or had to go home to their provinces. That's why they could not set up immediately. So disruption on client work was very minimal. And many clients have expressed their satisfaction and they were really happy with our transition. And until now, so far, there are no complaints. And most of our employees are happy. We're happy and are still happy with the work from home arrangement and the transition. Um, for some, it's their first time to do work from home, so they were really excited. That's why we have to come up with reminders for them that for them to be effective in doing work from their homes is that they have to manage their time, and then they have to designate a specific location or specific place wherein they can work, because they should not be working in their bedrooms as much as possible because it's just so inviting. And yes, sales activities have been continuous. I know many are saying they've lost clients. There's just no new business coming in. It's not easy even for us, but we see that it's not hopeless because actually we have a new client which has signed up, and we have one of our biggest clients who decided during the lockdown that they're going to expand their business with us. And our sales team is still actively pursuing additional clients as of this time. So client engagement activities are still continuous. Recruitment activities was not interrupted, was not disrupted. It is continuous until now because we have started implementing everything online. I think start of February, we didn't have any candidate coming to the office for interviews or exams. So we have been using technology start of February, and until now we were just continuing our process. So we have actually hired new people and have onboarded a new staff last week. So the delivery of HR services is still continuous, but of course it's limited. I sent an email to everyone. Okay, what are the services that we can provide? Like specifically for the government offices like SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig, it's everything should be done online. So they cannot expect the usual support that they get from us. And of course, we cannot do employee events. So we just try to manage the expectations of all of the employees because yeah, it's a different situation now. Financial transactions are also continuous because all of the transactions, all of the receipts are in the cloud. And the only predicament that we have right now is we have been experiencing some delays in in the processing of some payments, and also in the movement of some funds coming in from the other countries because of the shorter bank hours and the limited days that the banks are operating. IT support services are still continuous, 90% carried out remotely. So we would say that the outcome has really been encouraging for us. Uh, the low downtime and immediate work delivery, wherein the work has been unhampered, uh, at least for most of the clients, it was unhampered. We can say that we have proven ourselves as a dependent business partner of our clients. We have proven our resilience and dependability as a supplier for our clients. So it bolsters client confidence in our services, in our capability to act expeditiously, to act fast, and effectively manage the risk and uncertainties. Okay, so as I promised, we are going to tackle this in a more simplified approach. Uh, Maybe some of you have started to do BCP preparation and just found that the technical terms are too intimidating. There are a lot of processes, and maybe you don't know if you have the capability to do this at the moment. So I thought the best way is to simplify the steps, so you will have a better understanding that you can actually implement this without going through all of these difficult processes that we have seen in the other slides. So the simple steps that we can begin with are: analyze the needs of your organization, develop the plan, identify the management structure, maximize use of technology, training, communication, health and safety, document, review, test if able, and of course, to update. Okay, so analyze the needs of your organization. You can do this by risk identification. The first thing that you have to do is identify what are your current risks. So my my example earlier was, what if you are in a dilapidated building? So fire will be your most imminent threat, I would believe, because of faulty wiring. And then from there, what are the other potential risks? So you have to identify. And then you have to rank you have to rank this from topmost to the less critical, because you have to handle first the most critical. And then, how will this risk impact your organization? How will this impact your business processes? So that's what you have to start planning for. And then the organization. Number one, I will emphasize this: you have to get management's direction. You have to get management support. Without their support, your BCP will not succeed, because, as you will see later on, there's a lot of investment needed. There's a lot of resources that will come to play for you to have a successful BCP. So here, you have to be practical. You have to look into the goals of the company. You have to look into the short-term and long-term goals. For long-term goals, I think that's quite easy. If your horizon is at least 5 years, 10 years, that's long-term. Or maybe at this time, with so much uncertainty, okay, let's put it at 2 years. 2 years above, that's long-term. But short-term, you also have to know what's the direction of the business. Because what if you are planning to have to invest on this software, but your boss said, there's a probability that in 2 months the business will close shop. So what's the point of investing that much or that amount if you can't even recoup your investment, or you can't even maximize it in 2 years time, in 2 months time? So you have to be practical. You have to look, okay, what's the goal of the business, specifically short term? And then you have to align the goals of the company with the planning. Most companies, of course, when they set up, they're looking at the long haul, no? But some companies, as we see nowadays, they would just be operational for a year, or maybe some even less than a year. So you have to do the alignment. Uh, you have to do planning versus the goals of the company. And of course, be realistic in setting priorities. The needs of a company with only 10 employees will differ from the needs of a company with 1,000 employees. And of course, you have to develop the plan. The plan should be good. The plan is a good plan if uh, it can be understood. No, it should be concise, easy to understand, practical, and executable. And then, of course, the factors that you have to consider are the size of the organization, the industry, location, financial capability, and priorities, because the needs of your organizations will be different based on the size and your industry specifically, and of course your location. You can use a checklist and then identify what are the gaps that are non-existing based on your current system to the requirements. And of course, you go for practical and cost-effective strategies. Resource planning, take an inventory of the resources already existing. And then, of course, you look at the budget. Ask your management how much budget can be allocated for BCP, and then start coming up with alternative solutions and backups. And of course, you have to look at the deployment and distribution channel. Use technology. Technology is our best friend right now, which we'll discuss later. And then, of course, communication and facilities, the location, structure. Do you have a power generator in your building? The mobility, how fast can you move? And of course, is there an insurance policy in place? And of course, if you are part of the supply chain, you have to identify alternative suppliers. It's happening right now because many of the manufacturing companies are sourcing their raw materials from China, and they have to stop production because they couldn't get any from China during the lockdown. And then you have to organize the team. If this is very important, you have to start choosing who among your team members will be part of the planning, and then maybe you have people that you can either retrain. If not, you have to hire a new person. The best person is someone who has been involved in ISO, and then identify process owners specifically for operations, IT, HR, finance, and maybe logistics, warehousing. Decision making, identify decision points and the decision makers. And then for the processes, you can identify the most critical functions and processes, and of course, identify backup processes. You also have to identify recovery processes and the resources needed for number one, primary plan and the backup plan, and plan for contingency, like start sourcing, get proposals, and start reviewing. And then the management structure, you have to identify who will be involved and what the roles will be for the primary management team, and of course the secondary, and who are the project sponsors, the implementers, and of course the whole organizational structure. Okay, technology is key at this point in time. We have seen even traditional businesses moving their business online, like hardwares, groceries. Uh, this is what we call now as a digital transformation. We have to start innovating And these are just some of the applications that I think will be useful for organizations, however the size will be. So look at automating your processes. So automate your systems, and then best is for HR, you have your HRIS, you have your biometric timekeeping, you have payroll, internal communication channels. For recruitment, you need applicant tracking system if you can afford it, accounting system, if cloud-based, that's the best one. I know many are still using Excel, but it will be difficult for you to have to transition to BCP if you only rely on manual. And then CRM, inventory management, online banking, and of course, use cloud storage. This is very important. And this is one of the ways wherein you can do backups, which is not very costly. Redundancy in internet service providers. Please do not rely only on one ISP. If your ISP goes down, even for a day, and no one can work, that's very costly for you. So please consider another ISP so you will have redundancy. If you can afford this one, which is quite expensive, uh, hire the services of an offsite server. It means that your files will be stored in an offsite server, not in your respective building or office. And then, of course, you have to buy additional computer units. Uh, because of the lockdown, we couldn't even buy additional machines. So even if we need to replace uh, if we have to replace the machines of our people, you can't do that because the stores are closed. So for us, we were able to prepare for this. We were able to buy a number of machines that we are using now as backup. And then, of course, dongles or pocket Wi-Fi, and of course, you need power backup. I hope you have a power generator in your offices or in your buildings. And then, of course, you have to do training or awareness, at least for the rest of the members of your team. But the BCP team, for the minimum, should be trained for the respective roles, and of course, the BCP should be rolled out to the whole organization, and start including it in the induction of new employees, and it should be accessible to all. So if you have like an internet, or you can post it, I don't know, in your online repository, then that will be good because your employees can access it. And communication. You have to develop a communication plan for all stakeholders. Devise the approach for each level. The communication for your employees will be different from your clients, will be different from your suppliers, and of course from the other stakeholders. So a good company-wide communication channel is a must because you have to reach out to all of the employees. So you have to make sure that you can reach them. You can't rely only on mobile phones because it will take you a lot of time, before you can cover everyone. So you have to identify who will deliver the communication. So most likely it will be the CEO or the president, because we need the direction coming from the head of the organization. And then, of course, what tool to use. Will it be face to face? Will it be an all hands meeting, or will it be through video or email? And then you have to have an updated directory of employees. And of course, ensure timely communication is made to all stakeholders. And of course, try to prepare frequently asked questions because there will be a lot of questions coming, especially from your staff. And of course, health and safety. Planning for the health and safety of all our employees is the primary consideration. Even if we have guests in the building, we have to consider them. They should not be left out. Example, we needed to evacuate. And then we have to make sure that we are compliant to the requirements of occupational safety, because there are specific measures and regulations that are specified and should be observed and practiced. Our health and safety team should also be active and visible in promoting health and safety programs. And everyone should have the chance to take part in the actual emergency drills and prior information dissemination or training to all employees is needed from the time of onboarding as necessary. And of course, we need a lot of visual signages positioned in conspicuous places in our workplace. And then document. All BCP processes should be properly documented. It should be concise. It's easy to understand, and of course, readable. Processes should be written in a straightforward language, yes, clear and simple instructions. And the BCP is a working document, not subject to regular review and updating. It's not a document that you made 2 years ago and has not been checked, has not been updated or reviewed. You have to continuously review it because the needs are changing every now and then. So uh, make the we have to adopt it to the changes. Review. If you have the capability to do testing, then please do so quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. And then after an incident or a disaster, that is the best time to review how effective your BCP was, and then update update it afterwards. And okay, any ambiguity in the implementation should be documented, because if like the instructions weren't clear during the evacuation process, then this should be considered in your review. And then of course, this has been mentioned earlier. It's a working document. You have to update it. Any minor and major revisions should be communicated at least to the employees. And then new government rulings and other statutory requirements will have a material effect on the BCP and should be included in it. I think that's a lot of information. My goal is to encourage you to start doing your BCPs. And the purpose really was for me to simplify the approach. And I don't know if it's clear enough, but if I may I summarize the important points uh, for for you to be encouraged to already start your BCP process. Okay, it's a necessity, so you have to do it now. The first step in the process is, you have to get management's commitment and support, and everything else will follow. You have to understand your business survival needs. If the company is looking only to survive 2 months, yeah, it will be a different story. But of course, if you're looking at 5 years and even expanding your business, then you really have to make decisive action. You really have to make the investment. And yeah, do not be deterred by the big words, the complicated terminologies. A simple plan or basic plan is better than not having one at all. So you can just start with a simple plan and then build up using uh, updates, and later on you'll be able to come up with a more holistic or more complete plan. And there's no such thing as over planning. Me, when it comes to planning, I'm quite overacting, because you have to consider so many factors, and I don't really mind if I have overplanned, for as long as I know that and I'm confident that I was able to cover everything. And definitely BCP can be done, so please do it now. Um, the late John F. Kennedy, the former president of the US, said, "There are risks and costs to a program of action, but they are far less than the long-ranging costs of comfortable inaction." And if that's not enough, this last reminder from Sir Winston Churchill, He who fails to plan is planning to fail. So I hope this is a wake-up call. We don't need another 9/11 to shake us up, but every now and then we will have disruption, we will have disasters coming, and we have to prepare. It is to survive the all the disruptions, all the uncertainties, and we have to do it for our business. So that's the last part. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something from today's discussion on business continuity planning.
All right, so that's a great quote, no, to end your session. No? He who fails to plan is planning to fail. So again, I would like to thank Ms. Giselle for this productive and fruitful session. No? Hopefully, depending on her availability, mukhang marami nagre-request, no? We can have a separate session from her. No? Tignan natin no, kung available siya, baka makapag-provide siya ng separate session for this. Now, indeed,